Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Horse Races Now podcast. We are back again with another engaging guest. Really excited about this one because I've got some industry insider questions I'm really wanting to get into. Our guest this week is Tom Ludt. He is the GM at Turf Paradise in Phoenix, Arizona. Tom has held major leadership roles, including he's ran Santa Anita. He led the Breeders' Cup. And he's served over a decade on the Kentucky Racing Commission. He's also been linked to the National Thoroughbred League, which is a team sports style racing. So super excited to have Tom. Tom, how are you, man?
I'm great. Well, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Tom. So, all right. So currently, and please correct me if I'm wrong with any of this, currently you are the GM of Turf Paradise, correct?
That is correct.
And I guess the goal there, now listen, Tom, anybody who's listened to this show knows I'm a novice when it comes to horse racing, and I'm learning, and I'm picking a lot of this up, and Kenny's obviously taught me a ton. But Turf Paradise is something that you're kind of rebuilding, right?
That is correct. It's ironically, today is the 70th anniversary of opening day. It's the oldest franchise sports team in Phoenix. It's a great opportunity. The track, unfortunately, has been neglected, and so it's been run down, and it's got some skeletons in it, and we are rebuilding everything, redoing everything, and rejuvenating the atmosphere to the fun and racing in Phoenix, Arizona.
All right, Tom. So I've seen where you said that racing thrives on the on-track experience. That's something that I think that's big for you and big in your belief. What does that mean? And what are you trying to do there in Phoenix?
Well, it even goes bigger than Phoenix. And, being an old veteran in the sport, 90% of the people I meet fell in love with horse racing because a father, a friend, uncle, a grandfather, somebody took them to the races.
That's right.
And they fell in love with it. It was one of the things at Santa Anita that we really worked on. Is the infield was a place that I learned quickly, historically was a place that many people were introduced to racing by coming with their dads because they had this big, large infield and picnic area. And as much as I love to bet, no matter whether it's on an ADW or an OTB or a simulcast facility, you don't fall in love with horse racing through that. That's your means of getting your fix in on horse racing. And I believe, and it's probably not the most popular thing for racetrack executives, but I believe the mistake that horse racing is making is we've gotten away from building that on-track experience. And one of the reasons I was willing to do this with Gary Hartunian and now Joey Platts as an investor is it's a great town. It's got a great facility, the structure, but you've got to create a fun day at the races. You don't have to bet, you don't have to drink, but you got to come and enjoy watching these wonderful animals run, and you'll fall in love with it. And I just think that's the way we grow the sport. I think too many tracks have relied on, and it's great to have supplementary income from the slots or the HHRs or every which way you want. But at the end of the day, people get complacent and they think that we can just ride the storm. And I just don't believe that. I think you have to get the families, you have to get new people out and experience the fun. It's a lot of work. You got to advertise, you got to promote, you got to spend the money, but we're going to do that here. And we've already started doing that. We're seeing it. People are, in Phoenix said, I didn't know this track existed. And we want people to come out and have a great time, just like you do at a soccer game, a football game, whatever your sport is. Get outside, enjoy it, make something fun between the races, and entertain people. And that's what we want to do.
Tom, it's a great point, and I completely agree with you. I got into it going to Churchill Downs with my dad, little bitty. He'd give me $2 and tell me to pick a course, and I used to love it. I absolutely loved everything about it. We used to go out on Thanksgiving as a family, and it was really about the experience. It wasn't about betting. It was about the experience, and I've taken my family a few times. And certainly the experience is a big piece of it. But Tom, I'd like to know your views on, what exactly, aside from sitting in the stands watching the races, watching the horses run, what are other things you're trying to implement?
Well, we've just started at this, but like, I'm an old guy, so I have to listen to the younger generations. We're going to build a game room where people can play their different video games against each other.
Okay.
Because if you and I want to go and you're not interested, but you're interested in that, I've got to give an alternative option for people.
Makes sense.
We've brought in cornhole. We're bringing in DJs. We're blessed with wonderful weather here, so we have that going for us. So people can get outside and enjoy outside. But we're going to create an atmosphere down along our 8th pole. We've got a nice picnic area, a little bit like the Monmouth Park area, and we're going to create an atmosphere there. You can come and just enjoy being outside and with your friends. You don't, like I said, I mean, yes, we really do want you to bet, but at the end of the day, we got to introduce people to the sport, and so you got to create an atmosphere. And I want people to enjoy that gap between races. It's a great time to mingle, but we want to create some atmosphere where people can do things and not feel bored. And it's not easy. Like I said, we got to work hard at it, and we're going to continually talk to younger generations and different people and what makes them want to come out here. But the first thing you got to do is clean it up and make it nice. And we've spent a lot of money cleaning up the ponds in the infield. We've created, we have 2 tiki huts out there on the apron. We've redid those. So you got to create an atmosphere that's enjoyable and clean, and that's the first step.
It makes perfect sense. All right, so, and I'm sure you're very familiar with Churchill Downs, and that's the racetrack that I'm most familiar with. They started something several years ago now, but they started doing night racing, and to your point, they brought in DJs and made it more of a party atmosphere. Now, I know some of the pushback was, okay, how do you have a party at the track while protecting kind of the integrity of racing and the horses first message? What would you say to that?
Well, it's probably the biggest challenge in horse racing in America, because I worked for an organization internationally for a few years, and I traveled around, and we really do believe in this tradition and historical way things are done, and music and all that's not part of it. But when you get out to these other tracks in Hong Kong and Japan and different places, it's a party atmosphere.
Yeah,
and they're getting the younger generation to come, and we've got to look in the mirror and realize, and I say this to a lot of people, and it's not fun, but our sport is caught in so much tradition that we're killing ourselves because the younger generations don't appreciate it, don't know it,
right,
and it doesn't mean anything to them. And you've got to try different things. There's going to be some things we're going to do out here that are going to flop, and that's just part of life. But if you're not trying, you're not growing, and that's part of the problem with the horse industry. We're not growing. We know it, but yet nobody wants to change or try new things. I mean, if you look at everything, horse population's down, race days are down, attendance is down. So my argument is, why not try something? The worst I can do is be down.
I love it, man. I think that's the right approach. And and Kenny talks about, because he travels the world and goes to the races in Dubai, and he was recently into Brazil and wherever it may be. It's really not about betting at those places. Now, I'm sure you can bet and do those type of things, but it's more about the experience, and it's more about getting dressed up and going to the track and having a nice time. And I think that we've gotten away from that a little bit at the States.
No doubt about it. I mean, the number one day, I think, at probably every track in the United States is the Kentucky Derby. And
That's right.
Because it's on people know the first Saturday of May, and they dress up and they go and they have a great time. Well, you can't create that atmosphere every day, but we're trying to create that atmosphere once a month. And, we're rolling out some new things. Like I said, we're just tackling things right now, but we're going free Saturdays. We're going to start running on Saturdays. We're doing an interesting thing during the week. It's going to, it's a $5 admission. You're going to get a $5 raffle ticket for your admission, and then there's going to be one person that's going to win the gate. So whatever the gate money is after the 7th race, starting January 26th, somebody wins the gate money. We're giving it all back. So it's really, in essence, free admission for the chance of winning some money. So I just think, like I said, you got to try things, and everybody kind of gets nervous about it. And I use Vegas as my example for everything. Mm-hmm. I mean, they have done so many things successfully, and they flopped. Mm-hmm. And you know what? When you're wrong, you just change course. It's no big deal. You're in the entertainment business, and you brought that up. I mean, this isn't about betting. Betting will come with anything. You look at the NFL and the professional sports, they've been around forever, but they're growing more than anything right now. And there's directly a connection to the fact people are betting it. So We think we are an entertainment facility. We think we got a great location. We got a great weather. We've got to create an atmosphere that people want to be at it.
I totally agree, Tom. All right, another thing that Kenny always hits on, and I'd love to know your opinion on this. He thinks tracks need to be a little bit more lenient on the media rights when it comes to showing the races. He's a big fan of trying to make the races as accessible as possible. A big piece of that is the Horse Races Now app, but he wants to be able to have video and show all the races in a much more easier way for people to view and see. What's your view on that?
It's probably the one area I have the least amount of knowledge after all these years in the sport. I know there's legalities behind it, but I would agree with that comment. I just don't know the issues. I mean, I look at TVG,
right?
I call it TVG, FanDuel. That's an enormous expense they have putting on the races every day. And there's probably a ton of people that watch FanDuel but bet on a different application.
Sure.
So it's a little bit tough. So I don't know the economics of it, but I will tell you, I mean, I like to plagiarize things that are okay to plagiarize. Look at the NFL. I'm not a big fan of all these different options of streaming because you got to buy all the different channels.
Yeah.
But they know how to make money. And so I would be open to any of that discussion with the people that know that part of the industry.
Yeah, and that makes sense, and that's probably a good answer there, Tom. All right, so I got to ask you about your time at the Breeders' Cup. You may or may not know this, but here in this past Breeders' Cup, Kenny had a rough go with having some horses that the Breeders' Cup's vets, and honestly, I don't really know the insides of whose it was, but the veterinarian's not letting some of his horses go that they felt like were fit to race. And man, he was really, really upset of kind of that whole, and even at the time made the comment that he's not sure he's ever going to go back out to the West Coast, and was really, really upset about what happened to a couple of his horses this past Breeders' Cup. Do you know any of that story at all?
I don't. I can tell you a lot about that part of it.
Okay.
It's a tough game. I mean, there's been some facilities that have really struggled with breakdowns and how we've handled it. And as an industry, I don't think we've done a very good job. Heist has come on board. It's very expensive. It's difficult to swallow. I can tell you that as we're doing that as a small track, paying large fees to have this. But those state vets, that's a really tough job. I mean, the hardest part on a day-to-day basis versus Breeders' Cup is Breeders' Cup has the resources, and they spend a week analyzing these horses, and they try their best to really watch these horses day to day. And the reality of the matter is there's nobody in this sport that tries to hurt an individual in the game. The animals, just like us, some days you wake up and your ankle hurts or your knee hurts. Animals can't talk. So you've got vets that are trying to make sure that they are in perfect condition to race. And if they're not, they don't want the horse to race because they don't want to jeopardize a severe injury. So I will tell you, it's a thankless job being these state vets. I get frustrated with them all the time, but all they're trying to do is protect our sport and from a visual and from a fan perspective. And when they scratch a horse, they think they're doing the best thing for the horse and for the game. It's just tough. I mean, the track gets hit because, like Turf Paradise, if they scratch two horses in one race, that's the financial hit because two horses coming out of a race really affect the handle. But these state vets don't do this to hurt us. They're doing their job, and it's a tough job. That's
interesting. It's an interesting take from your viewpoint to there too. So, I appreciate that take for sure. Okay, one of the things I'm curious about this, Tom, and I may be missing the boat here completely, but this National Thoroughbred League, the NTL. What I've seen is it's like a team sports style racing. Is that kind of like Formula One, or what's the model there?
Well, it's a great idea. That's why I got involved in it. Obviously, running the track now, I haven't been involved, but Randall Lane and Bob Doherty came up with this idea because all these sports have teams and horse racing doesn't. Horse races, once a horse does really well, we retire them and we make them a breeding operation because it's more profitable.
Yeah.
So from a fan, it's hard to follow it. And the idea was, why don't we create teams so that people can follow the team and not lose interest when the horse gets retired? So from that concept, it's great. Implementing it's very difficult. it gets into some of your earlier questions. Change and making things different in our sport is not well appreciated because, number one, it's hard to do. In this case, it's very expensive. And the concept was just to get people to follow a team. You have the Baltimore team, or I think Maryland, I'm sorry. You've got, the New York Knights. You got different teams. And so the idea was for fans to start following a team. So when horses got retired, they didn't lose interest in horse racing. So the concept I love. It's just, it's a challenge. It's very expensive to market it. But I think what they're trying to do is get people to follow horse racing, and the way to follow it is root for your team, just like you do with any other sport. And so from that perspective, it's a great idea. It's just hard to implement.
In this game, winners win, and I only back winners. Trainer Kenny McPeak is a proven winner, and his horses are in my portfolio. And now they can be in yours too. McPeak's champion horses and Derby hopefuls are now featured on Morning Line. With Morning Line, I don't just watch the race. I own the moment. I invest in champions. This is my edge. Buy, sell, trade, anytime. Morning Line. Own the game.
I see a lot of cool stuff with it, though, because your teams could potentially be your farms, and you could even do some branding and licensing agreements around all that. There's a lot of cool things that could come out of that. To me, it seems like it could be the future of racing if people really bought in.
I agree. I mean, they've worked really hard in trying to get, a name with each team. Lamar Jackson got involved with the Maryland Colts, which, that really helped that event. Dr. J is an investor in the Philadelphia team, and it's just, they're working on it. It takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of energy, and the industry has to support it. And I don't really, I don't want to throw anybody on the bus, but the tracks have been a little bit reluctant to really embrace this thing. They want to. Everybody's like, prove it'll work, and then we'll help you. Well, it's hard to prove it to work if you don't have the tracks behind it. And Parks and the Maryland Jockey Club, they got behind it pretty quickly, and they've been very supportive. So that's what it needs. It needs that kind of help to get it off the ground. Any startup is difficult, and the first couple of years is when you got to make the investment and get over the hump. And if you don't make it over the hump, then you kind of fade away.
Tom, I come from I have a professional golf background, PGA professional, and was in the golf industry for a number of years. And I found that the golf industry at a time was very, very unwilling to change and very stuck in tradition, stuck in their own ways. And then it started hitting the pocketbooks to the point where they had to. They had to start letting people. Country clubs had to loosen the attire rules or whatever it may be to get people out on the course. And do you see horse racing going that way at some point? Do you see the tide changing at all?
From an attire standpoint, 100%. I mean, just look. I think one of the things that and again, I don't want to rub wrong against the industry, but you look at anything that thrives, they adapt and they change and they try new things. Just look at the business attire, whether it was COVID or not. The business tie and the suit is almost fallen away.
It's true.
It's just the way it is. I mean, the next generation. I've got 3 young adults, in their 20s, and one of them's in their 30s. They've grown up in a world that's very different than I grew up at that age, and so I think that really directly reflects the horse industry. We haven't. I don't know that we have changed. You talked earlier, like the music between races. So many people, when I first got in the sport, like, well, you can't do that. It disturbs the horses. Well, you go to Dubai on World Cup Day, they'd put on fireworks, which is one of the scariest things for horses. Is it traditional? Of course not. But you could look at these things that they do at Japan and Hong Kong between races, where they have bands playing on the apron, and horses are coming out on the track. So, safety is obviously number one, and it has to be, but entertainment has to be right behind it, because if you don't entertain people, they won't come. And if they don't come, you die. So there's no doubt the world adapts and changes, and the horse industry, in my opinion, has been slow to do it. I think we will. I think you're starting to see a little bit of it. We're just slow. I mean, I'm not a baseball guy, but I use this analogy all the time. One of the reasons I don't like baseball, I think it's boring. They put in that pitch clock. They sped up the game. They realized fans were losing interest.
That's right.
That was a major change when it was out. I'm a big sports guy, so I read, and it was like the end of the world Now nobody even talks about it. You just have to get over that hurdle. It was probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, and nobody cares about it anymore. They respect the change, and they adapted and moved on.
Tom, I own a marketing agency, and when I was in marketing school, the adage was you had to see something 7 times before you retained it. Now it's more like 35 because of all the things that we have to intake. So this younger generation is just used to getting hit with things and being stimulated more. And to your point, man, we just have to change the horse racing industry and just to make it more entertaining if there's going to be a future. It's just period.
Yeah, that's interesting. I had not heard that, but there's no doubt about that. And one of the things I was challenged with at Santa Anita is you probably have 20 events going on every single day, and so you're 21. And it's not easy, but you got to know the game you're in. You got to have a game plan, and you got to execute. And I use the phrase all the time: if it was easy, everybody'd do it.
That's right.
And it's one of the things that's exciting out here is, in the short time I've been here, all the networks have given us a lot of time for interviews. The interviewees and interviewers were very engaging. A lot of them did a lot of homework. And like I said earlier, I think this town is ripe for it. Create the atmosphere. It's a great sports town.
Sure.
And people want to do things differently. And we don't have the competition. Obviously, there's competition, but it's not like LA. And so I think it's going to be a great challenge, but a lot easier. And I think we'll do really well here. I think in the next 2 to 3 years, people are going to see pretty good crowds here at the racetrack.
All right. So talking about that, Tom, what's something that is what's the most misunderstood part of a track's P&L, right? Where does the money really come from today?
Well, that's a great question. And it's really, really misunderstood, especially today with people betting in sports. Parimutuel and takeout, people will see that we'll do $1 million in handle today, and they'll think, man, you made a lot of money.
Right.
Well, we'll make about 8% of that.
Okay.
So 8% of $1 million isn't a lot of money when you got to turn on the lights, do all the things, make the payroll.
Oh yeah.
So biggest misunderstanding is the actual take, because the high end player talks about how the takeout's too high. But when you start breaking down a facility like ours, it'll on a big day handle 3 million. 8% of that is not a big number to operate a successful business. When you look at the of the things we're dealing with, you got environmental issues nowadays. I mean, the world's much more expensive to operate, but by far the biggest misunderstanding is what the track makes off of bet. But it's where we make our money. I mean, food and beverage is literally a rounding error. The admission gate and selling programs is a rounding error. It all comes down to the betting handle. Okay,
well, that makes sense. So, and earlier you had made a comment about a $5 admission and then given a raffle ticket. What's your stance on pricing? So cheap admission to fill the place versus premium experiences. I mean, obviously you're trying to fund improvements left and right. So what's your stance on kind of admission prices?
It's a really, really interesting question because, the tracks like that admission take, but the reality of the matter is you walk into a casino, there's different price points to baseball games, football games. So we're trying to do that. What we're trying to do is, it's easy for us to do it because our admission's relatively low and our crowds are relatively small. So we're taking that revenue and we're giving it back to a lucky winner every day. We also do believe that you have to have experiences. And so, at the end of the day, if you want to go walk around a casino, you won't pay a nickel. If you want to sit down at a table and play, you're going to pay. So We're going to have a few areas that have an upsale price, but it'll be a much bigger experience. And so we don't want to scare off anybody. In essence, we want the general admission. I want it to be free. We want the elite atmosphere. People are willing to pay for that. And if you're not, you go in the general admission.
That's right.
We're going to have price points, and I think that that's more than fair. I think people are willing to do that.
I love that. And Tom, I love your you have a stance that I think the horse racing industry very much needs. You're not resistant to change. But my question to you is, why do you think people in the horse industry are?
That's a good question. I do think, I mean, I really hate to throw our industry under the bus, but I think we just have very traditional people. They're used to doing things the way they've doing it. They make their money on handle. And so it's a great tool having the ADWs, but it's also almost a bad crutch that people have got content saying, well, people aren't going to come out. So all we got to do is put our signal on the air and people will bet. And it's a huge number. You know, you hear a lot of talk about the CAW players being a detriment because they're sabotaging the pools.
Yep.
Well, the reality of the matter is we don't want them to go away. So what's the alternative? The alternative is grow the pools. I mean, and if a guy's betting 10,000 into a race and it's greatly affecting your pools, well, your pools are small. Not easy by no means, but what we've got to do is get our pools bigger so that, you know, you don't ever hear the CAW talk on big days because the pools are so big. Their $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 bet doesn't have a major impact on a major pool. It has a huge impact if your pools are only 100,000.
Right.
So, I think, I mean, I know this is not going to be well received, but I think it's just people are lazy. I mean, spending money on marketing and advertising, it's very difficult, especially today with so many vehicles to get the message out.
Yep.
But I think that's what you have to do. I think you have to be smarter and you have to work harder, because once you get a customer in this business, they're very repetitive. And I just think our industry's gotten lazy.
Yeah, no, I would tend to agree with you there, Tom, for sure. Okay. What would you keep sacred about traditional racing? And obviously you have the opportunity to do this now that you're running a track there in Phoenix. What would you want to keep sacred that's traditional, that people remember? And what would you just blow up tomorrow that you're just like, listen, we got to get rid of this?
Man, good questions. I think the winner's picture and the tradition of celebration, and it's probably a simple answer, but
that's
I think
a great answer. Great answer.
I think you have to keep that as it is. I think we've talked about it. I think the issue between races has to be blown up. I mean, unfortunately, I love it because it gives me time to digest, kind of get a feel if I have an opinion about the track, relook at some of these horses if I think there's some biasness. But I'm a traditional gambler. You know, you look at my kids, they're bored out of their mind. And so I think you have to create atmosphere that horse people don't want to believe.
Yeah.
That's vital. Because the truth of the matter is, you know, so many habits or hobbies or interests that we've picked up have happened either by accident or a friend taking you somewhere, whether it's to the park or a movie or museums, whatever it is. Once you get exposed to something, you develop an interest or you don't. I'll give you a good example. I use it all the time. I was blessed to meet Dale Earnhardt Jr. and his family, and they wanted me to come to a NASCAR race. So I went as their personal guest.
Okay.
It's never going to get any better than that.
Nope.
It was really, really interesting. It just did nothing for me, and I knew that was never going to be any better, and I'll never go to another race. And I tell people that about horse racing. I mean, we try to shove people into this sport and make them love it. I mean, I joke about it at the track here. I mean, they say that rough population of the greater Phoenix area is 6 million. We just want 1%.
Yeah.
Don't set your goals unrealistic. We just want 1% of 6 million.
Yeah.
It would be great for us to do that. But you got to invite people out. If it's not their thing, it's okay. I mean, it's like me in NASCAR, right? You know, it just doesn't do anything for me. We've got to get people to, I mean, I call it footprints on the track, and that's why we're trying to get to this free admission. Take the obstacles, as you mentioned, away to get them there. If they don't enjoy it, they're not going to like it. So you just move on, find the next customer.
Tom, I'm so glad to hear you say some of these things. I took my 13-year-old daughter at the time, it was 14, 15-year-old son, to the track, and they had an okay time. They liked watching the races. They liked picking a horse out here and there. The in-between was nauseating for them. It's like, what do we, I mean, just staring at each other. What are we doing? Why is there 30 minutes in between each race? And there was nothing, zero to entertain them. And I think you're dead on. We've got to fix that if we're going to get this younger generation to buy in, for sure.
Yeah, there's no doubt that's true. And that's a really, really hard issue to address. I mean, people ask me all the time, why don't we run 20 minutes between races? Why don't we do this? You really can't speed it up from a safety perspective and doing the things you need to do with getting the horses off the track, getting the new horses on the track, getting the track regrooved. And so that's definitely an issue. I also think I'm a traditionalist by nature. I think things come around, and I think if you educate people, which we've done a very poor job, the racing form is very difficult to understand.
Agreed.
Once you understand it, it's pretty simple. And then it becomes the game of, and this is the part I just don't think we've done a good job at all. I'm competing against you. You go to Vegas, it's against the odds, it's against the bookmaker.
That's right.
The truth of the matter is people don't understand those odds are strictly based off the money. We don't have anything to do with it. We just manage the money. And I think we have to educate people. There's a great intellect out there, and there's a lot of interest. And I think it's going to come back if we get people into a clean, fun environment that'll love the challenge of competing against each other. I love that. I mean, one of the things I tell you that I do, and it happened at Belmont, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, but so I do it here. I get down on that apron, and when those 1-5s win, as a gambler, I used to hate that. It is so exciting to see these people screaming and hollering like they won the lottery. They're going to win. Most of those people, and I don't know this, but most of them are probably $2 or $5 to win.
Yep.
They're winning, 10 cents on the dollar.
Right.
But the excitement and the thrill they're having, we've forgotten.
Yeah.
And we can't take that away. The idea of winning, obviously not everybody, but if you're at the racetrack, you're typically competitive, and the sport of winning is priceless.
Tom, literally, you gave me chills there. You painted a picture and I was kind of following along there in the winning. Seriously, you cannot replace that. It's unbelievable. But so I do want to hit on something you said earlier. If I hand a racing form to my kids or my wife, or it's like a different language. I mean, it's like, What am I even looking at? We've got to your point. If we can make it to where we're competing against other people at the track and each other, and man, that'd be so much more fun. I totally agree with you. There's a lot of ideas there that I think the horse racing industry needs to pick up on and start moving with quick.
Okay. You brought up the NTL and the team concept. And
yeah.
There's just no doubt, in my opinion, people bet sports because they have a rooting interest, and it's simple. I got a really good friend that's when I was in Florida. He comes out here. He's actually here right now. He is a huge gambler, but he didn't know anything about horse racing, so he uses AI, and he's having a ball doing it. He doesn't care that he's not studying a form. He just goes with AI. A person like me just laughs at that and thinks it's weird.
Yeah, what are you doing?
He's having a ball. Yeah. Well, he's having a ball. He doesn't have to spend the time and energy. I don't know what his hit ratio is. It's probably no better or worse than anybody else's, but
sure.
there are tools, and there's going to be things that are going to change that we never saw coming. But, getting back to your kids, I mean, the bottom line is as a father, I don't like the idea that they live on technology and they're bored within 10 seconds. But the reality is it is what it is. You got to figure out ways to engage it.
That's right. Gosh, that's so right. All right, Tom, part of me doing a deep dive on you, I found where you're big on the surfaces that these horses run on. You're big on track surfaces. What are some of the non-negotiables for a safe dirt track today?
Money.
Yeah. Okay.
The investment in equipment probably, and I'm not obviously a track superintendent, probably hasn't changed a lot from a Harrow perspective. We have sealing equipment. What's changed is the devices we use for consistency. I don't even know all the terms that we have, but we spend a lot of money on it. And these devices, they go down into the dirt, they measure moisture, they measure the depth of the compaction, and it's expensive. It's time consuming because you can't go down to the finish line and measure the rail out. You got to measure it every 20 yards around the entire track. And so, like on water trucks, we've now got these things called pony motors that regulates the water pressure going all those, when you see those arms going and all that water being splashed down.
Yep.
Well, the speed of the truck, the volume that's coming out of each water head, it's all measured if you're spending the money. And trust me, it infuriates me, let alone the owners. Everything's always breaking, so you're always fixing it. But the bottom line is there's a direct correlation to the money you spend on equipment and staff. I mean, people don't realize this. Our team starts at 3 a.m. on race day. There's a group that comes out and starts grooming the track and getting it ready for training. Our track opens at 6 a.m. Then they stop at 10:30, and we got to regroom it and get it ready for racing. So it's a lot of unsexy, hard labor,
Mm-hmm.
and the biggest change is the investment in technology.
All right, makes sense. You've been awesome with your time here, Tom. So just a couple more questions, but we'll get you on your way. All right, so tell me a time that you were absolutely certain something would work, but it totally didn't.
Well, that list would be way too long.
Yeah, I hear you on that one.
That's cool, man. You're asking some good questions. I mean, there's no doubt some of my marketing ideas and trying to get people on the track hasn't worked. I'd have to spend real time thinking about that. But trying to get people, and I brought it up earlier, trying to get people to the track and making them like it has probably been the biggest adaptation that I've taken.
Yeah.
You have to. I do it all the time. I tell staff, look in the mirror. You can't lie to yourself. Go in the bathroom or wherever you're at when you're by yourself and look in the mirror and stare at yourself. Your conscience won't let yourself lie to yourself. You can lie to your friends. You can lie to people. You can't lie to yourself.
Right.
And I just think that, we try things, and when we're wrong, we convince ourselves they're wrong and we're right.
Correct.
And that's a mistake. When you're wrong, you're wrong. I joke about it. We've had a couple mistakes happen here, just silly little things, but every once in a while I have to have a team meeting and remind people that we race horses in circles. We don't put in plastic hearts. We don't put electrical wires together. So when we screw up, it's an entertainment screw up. It's not life-threatening. And I think sometimes it's hard. I'm intense. I demand a lot from my staff, but sometimes you got to step back and realize what you do. And this is a sport of entertainment. And so when you're wrong, it's not the end of the world. You just got to be willing to admit you were wrong and make changes.
Great answer. All right. So you talked about your NASCAR experience, how it didn't do a whole lot for you. Tell me about a horse racing experience that's number one, something that's just been the best experience that you've had in the sport of horse racing.
Well, on a personal level, I mean, I don't currently own horses. I'm not allowed to even race horses in Arizona because I'm a racing official. But my first win, my personal first win, I mean, I tell people all the time, I've been very blessed to work for some very, very wealthy people that have enough money to do whatever they want. One of the things you can't do is you can't buy a win. And if nobody wants to believe that, look at the money spent on these babies.
Yep.
I'm friends with Mike Rapoli. I'm friends with some very wealthy people. Look at the money they spend, and they have wins. They have a lot of losses. I mean, this is a sport where if you're at 30%, you're considered great. That means 70% of the times you lose. So winning any win. I mean, I think people forget this. I did this at Santa Anita. We're getting ready to start it here. When you win a race, if you're there, we need to celebrate. If it's a $10,000 race or $1 million race, the thrill of victory is the reason this game exists from an ownership standpoint. There's nothing better. And it doesn't matter the purse. It's great. It's great when there's more zeros, but the reality of the matter is it's so hard. So many things go wrong. The thrill of winning is just irreplaceable.
Yeah, great answer. So you mentioned Mike. Obviously, Kenny was on it too. Did you watch the Netflix series?
I did.
I mean, to me, Tom, we need a lot more of that. That shined, in not a great light in all aspects, but it shined a light on the horse racing industry that I thought was really cool. I wish we could get a lot more of that.
Yeah, I mean, what's the phrase? Any news is good news.
That's right.
So I agree with that as long as you're getting a lot of it. If you get a little of it and it's negative, it puts a really poor light on the sport. And shame on us for that.
Yeah.
It's one of the challenges here. I mean, we want to get people on the track, and we're going to have some bad experiences, and that's unfortunate. You got to manage it. But I agree with that. I mean, I think, if you listen to the older traditionalists, they'll tell you that the sport died when we went off television. And there's a lot of truth to that. And so then you look at why are we not on television? And we're working really hard. Fox Sports 1 just decided to start airing some of our races. And we just need more exposure. People aren't exposed to horse racing anymore. It's just not people don't even know where to find FanDuel on their cable channels.
That's right.
And it's on, I think, most channels. So 100% we need more exposure. And you got to love the fact that Netflix did that. I've heard that they're not doing the second series, which is disappointing. And, I don't know that to be fact. That's what I've heard. And the reality of the matter is you're darn right. We need as much exposure we can get, whether we like the individual or not. I mean, there's always people we root for, and there's in every sport, a lot of teams get rooted against.
Sure.
It's okay. It's competition.
We got to have villains in the sport. That's what makes it fun. I mean, that's part of it. All right, Tom, we're gonna leave you with 5 rapid fire questions here. All right.
Okay.
For number 1, best racetrack vibe, and we should probably throw Turf Paradise in there as well. But Churchill, Saratoga, Santa Anita, or Turf Paradise?
Saratoga.
Good answer. All right. Favorite place to watch a race: the paddock, grandstand, or the rail?
The rail.
How come?
Yeah, you just feel it when they come. I mean, there's nothing better. That's why I say I literally, you'll see me about 3 races a day down on the apron. A, to see the horses up close and feel the thundering hooves, and B, the fans, the vibe, the cheering, the yelling.
Yeah.
I mean, we had our biggest crowd here. I don't know what Saturday that was, maybe 3 weeks ago, and there were people clapping at the post parade. I had chills come down my body. That's horse racing at its finest.
Yes, it is. Amen to that. All right. One racing book or documentary everyone should watch or consume.
Let It Ride.
Let It Ride. That's a good one. One stat you wish every fan really understood.
Understood. It's supposed to be rapid fire. You're asking tough questions.
I know, Tom. I understand.
I'd have to say win percentage, but that's a cop out.
Well, no, that's a good one though, because Kenny's on that one, because Kenny will tell you his win percentage doesn't really depict what he is as a trainer. So that's a good answer. All right, last question here. One change you'd make to improve the fan experience within 30 days. Yeah, maybe
atmosphere.
Atmosphere. We probably already hit on that. Tom, you've been awesome, man. Thank you so much. I think our listeners are going to get a lot out of this, so we really appreciate you taking some time and talking to us today.
Hey, thank you for having me on. Let's get more fans going. Let's root it on.
Anything you'd like to promote coming up at Turf Paradise, or anything you'd like to tell fans that they should be looking for?
Well, I just think, you just got to give racing a chance. And I'm a big fan of this. People don't like it. Constructive criticism. If you come and you don't like it, tell me what you didn't like. Certain things I can fix. Certain things are just going to be, it's not an interest to you. But give it a chance.
How does somebody do that, Tom? Like, let's say that somebody came out and does have that. Is there a way to give feedback somewhere?
Well, we have things on our website you can respond to by email, and we respond. But we also have people at the exit gate, so you can tell them or they can ask. I mean, we don't hide. Listen, I get a lot of hate mail, and we respond to it. And there's certain people you're never going to make happy. So, after one response, I may not respond again because complainers are going to complain. But we want people to know that we listen. Yeah, no, that makes sense. You have to. That's how we're going to improve the sport for sure. Yep. All right, Tom. Thank you so much, and we appreciate you listening. Thank you. You bet. Take care. Thank you. All right, everybody, hit that subscribe button. Give us a like. Give us a follow. You know what else really helps is comments. We love your comments. If you can leave a comment somewhere, please leave that. Thank you so much for listening to Horse Races Now. We'll see you at the races.
Horse Races Now, the app to follow horse racing at over 1,200 tracks worldwide. View entries and results. Get notifications on your favorite horses, jockeys, trainers, racetracks, and owners. Users set up and revise notifications like live video at the gate, call to post, entries, results replays, etc. Over 1 million downloads. Get the free app on Apple Store or Google Play now. Horse Races Now, the racing app that's always running.